Let me ask you something. When did kindness become your weakness? When did saying "I" to everyone start costing you yourself? You call it being nice. They call it convenience. And the truth is, the more kind you are to everyone, the more invisible you become to the ones who truly matter. Being kind is beautiful, but being too kind is dangerous. Because the moment your kindness stops serving them, they call you selfish. Let that sink in. Kindness without boundaries isn't kindness, it's surrender. You see, there's a difference between helping someone and handing them the keys to your peace. Most people don't realize this until they're drained, mentally exhausted, wondering why being kind feels like punishment. You tell yourself, I'm just being a good person, but deep down it doesn't feel good anymore. It feels heavy. It feels like you're giving, and somehow you're the one always left empty. That's not kindness. That's surrender. That's losing pieces of yourself while trying to hold everyone else together. Imagine this, you're that friend who always listens. No matter what time it is, no matter what you're going through, you pick up the phone. You say, it's okay, I'm here. And yes, it's beautiful to be someone's comfort. But slowly, it starts happening every day. They call only when they need something. They vent, they cry, they leave. And you're left holding all their pain like it's your own. You start feeling responsible for fixing their life. But ask yourself, who's fixing yours? You can't pour from an empty cup. And yet here you are, refilling others while your own cup runs dry. That's not love. That's self-abandonment disguised as kindness. There's this woman who always says yes at work. Every extra shift, every last-minute favor, every impossible deadline, she takes it all. Her boss loves her for it. Her coworkers depend on her for it. But at night, she's staring at the ceiling, exhausted, angry at herself for not saying no. The world claps for her dedication, but no one claps for her sleepless nights. She's kind, yes, but without boundaries. Her kindness becomes permission for others to take advantage. They don't see her heart anymore. They see her availability. You see, when you keep giving without limit, you don't just lose energy, you lose respect. People stop appreciating your effort because you've taught them it comes free. Let's talk about relationships. You love someone so much you think loving harder will make them love you back. You forgive the same mistake 100 times. You keep showing up even when they stop trying. You convince yourself, if I'm patient enough, they'll change. But they don't. Because your endless kindness has turned into comfort for them. They know you'll always forgive, so they stop being careful with your heart. That's not loyalty. That's surrender. You're not being kind, you're being available for pain. Kindness with boundaries says, I love you, but I also love myself enough to walk away if you keep breaking me. Have you ever been the person who never says no to family? You drive across town, fix every problem, lend money you can't afford and smile while doing it because that's what good people do, right? But behind that smile, there's resentment growing. Not because you hate helping, but because no one seems to help you back. They call you strong, dependable. But the truth is, they've mistaken your silence for strength and your kindness for obligation. One day, you stop picking up calls. You stop showing up for every crisis. And suddenly, they call you selfish. That's when it hits you. People don't love you for your kindness, they love you for your usefulness. And that realization changes everything. Even with strangers, kindness without boundaries can cost you. You see someone struggling and you give what you can, time, money, energy. But when giving becomes a reflex instead of a choice, you're no longer acting out of love, you're acting out of guilt. You feel like you owe the world your compassion, but you don't. You owe the world your awareness. The ability to know when helping someone empowers them and when it enables them. Sometimes the kindest thing you can do is step back and let people face the consequences of their own choices. Because real kindness doesn't rescue people from their lessons. It respects their journey. The truth is, people will always take as much as you're willing to give. Not because they're evil, but because that's human nature. Boundaries teach people where your limit is. And if you never show that limit, they assume there isn't one. When you keep giving, thinking they'll eventually appreciate you more, they won't. They'll just expect more. You're training them, without realizing it, to overlook your effort. You can't blame them entirely. You've made your kindness too easy to access, too constant to value. And that's why boundaries are not walls. They're gates with locks. They don't block love, they filter it. They don't make you cold, they make you clear. When you say, no, I can't do that right now, or I need time for myself, you're not rejecting someone, you're respecting yourself. And in doing that, you teach others to respect you too. The people meant for you will never leave because of your boundaries. The ones who do. They were only there for what you could give, not for who you are. There's power in being kind, but there's even greater power in knowing when to stop. The world doesn't reward the person who's always available. It respects the one who values their energy. You don't owe constant access to anyone. You owe consistency to yourself. Every time you say yes when your heart screams no, you lose a piece of peace you'll never get back. You can be kind and still have limits. You can care deeply and still walk away. You can give without being drained. That's the difference between kindness with strength and kindness with surrender. It's not about hardening your heart. It's about protecting it. Because the kindest thing you can do for others is to first be kind to yourself. The world respects energy that respects itself. You can feel it when someone walks into a room. That quiet confidence, that calm control. They don't have to shout. They don't have to prove anything. Their energy speaks before their words do. That's what self-respecting energy looks like. It's not arrogance. It's alignment. It's when you stop chasing people, stop explaining yourself to those who've already decided not to understand you, and start standing in your own truth. Because energy that respects itself doesn't beg, it attracts, it doesn't chase validation, it creates its own gravity. Think about that person at your workplace who never brags, never tries to outshine anyone, yet somehow everyone listens when they speak. Why? Because they value their presence. They don't waste words, they don't engage in drama, and they don't let people pull them into chaos. Their energy says, I know who I am, and I don't need your approval to stay that way. That's power. That's respect. You can't demand respect from the world. You teach it by example. The way you carry yourself, the way you say no, the way you don't let temporary people create permanent damage inside you. That's what earns respect. Have you noticed how some people drain you just by being around them? It's not what they say, it's what they carry. Constant negativity, gossip, complaining. It's energy that doesn't respect itself. And if you stay around it long enough, it pulls you down too. You start absorbing their chaos. You start doubting your peace. That's why protecting your energy isn't selfish, it's survival. If someone keeps bringing you storms, stop handing them shelter. You can't keep allowing people to dump their emotional trash into your space and still expect peace to grow there. Sometimes the best response is silence. Sometimes walking away from the noise is louder than any argument you could ever make. Let's take friendships. When you respect your energy, you stop entertaining one-sided connections. You stop being the only one who texts first, the only one who checks in, the only one who cares. You stop chasing people who make you feel like you're too much. You stop apologizing for existing. You start realizing that if someone wants to stay, they will. If they don't, your peace is not up for negotiation. The world respects people who don't beg to be loved. The moment you stop proving your worth multiplies. Because true value doesn't fight for attention. It simply exists, and the right ones notice. There's a man who used to always try to please everyone. His friends, his boss, his family. He'd change his opinions just to fit in. He thought being agreeable would make people like him more. But all it did was make him invisible. People liked his compliance, not his company. One day he stopped. He started saying what he really thought. He stopped explaining himself to those who twisted his words. He began walking differently, talking differently, not louder, but clearer. And suddenly, the same people who overlooked him began to respect him. Because when you stop seeking approval, people sense it, and they start giving you what you no longer ask for. That's how energy works. Have you ever been in a relationship where you gave everything? Time, love, attention, but somehow it still wasn't enough. That's because love given without self-respect turns into desperation. You start losing your spark just to keep someone else lit. You silence your needs, hoping they'll notice without you saying it. But they never do. Because the energy you give tells them what you accept. When you start respecting yourself, your energy shifts. You stop trying to convince anyone to see your value. You start showing it by walking away from those who don't. That's when people start realizing what they lost. Not because you made a scene, but because you stopped showing up. That silence becomes the loudest message you'll ever send. Even in your dreams and goals, energy that respects itself refuses to settle. It refuses to stay stuck in situations that shrink it. When you respect your time, your work, your worth, doors start opening. The world senses confidence, not neediness. You'll notice how opportunities begin aligning, how people start responding differently. Because when your energy says, I don't chase, I attract, everything starts shifting in your favor. The same way desperation repels, discipline attracts. The world mirrors what you project. If your energy says, I'm unsure of myself, people treat you like you're replaceable. But when it says, I know what I bring to the table, the world adjusts its tone when it speaks to you. There's this student who used to always compare themselves to others, smarter classmates, louder achievers. They'd shrink every time someone else succeeded. But one day, they stopped comparing and started focusing. They stopped chasing recognition and started respecting their own effort. They realized, I don't need to be better than anyone. I just need to be better than I was yesterday. Their energy changed. They started walking with quiet certainty instead of loud doubt. And guess what? People started noticing their calm confidence. That's how self-respecting energy works. It transforms how the world sees you without you having to say a word. Sometimes, respecting your energy means being misunderstood. It means people calling you distant when you're actually just protecting your peace. It means not explaining every decision. It means letting silence speak for you. That's okay. You're not meant to be accessible to everyone. You're meant to be aligned with the right ones. The world doesn't respect the loudest voice. It respects the most grounded one. You earn that grounding by saying no when it's easier to say yes, by walking away when your soul feels drained, by standing tall even when you stand alone. Energy that respects itself doesn't compete. It simply continues. It doesn't react to every opinion. It rises above it. It doesn't beg for recognition. It commands it through consistency. That's why you must carry yourself like someone fun worth respecting, not because you think you're better, but because you finally understand your worth. When your energy respects itself, it changes how you show up, calmer, wiser, lighter. And that energy, that quiet, unshakable strength is what the world will always respect most. Stop trying to heal people who enjoy being broken. Some people don't want healing. They want attention. They don't seek peace. They seek pity. They don't crave growth. They crave the comfort of being the victim. You think your love, your care, your consistency will save them. But you're not their savior. You're just their distraction from the truth they refuse to face. You keep pouring light into their darkness, hoping it'll change them. But they've learned how to survive in that darkness. It's become their identity. And the more you try to fix them, the more they'll drain you. You'll mistake your exhaustion for love, your pain for purpose, and your brokenness for compassion. That's not healing. That's self-destruction. Think about that friend who always calls you crying over the same person, the same problem, the same story. You listen, you give advice, you stay up late to comfort them. They promise they'll change, they promise they'll stop going back, and yet a week later, it's the same cycle again. You start realizing they don't want to move on. They just want the attention that comes from being broken. Your empathy becomes their escape route. They don't want the solution. They want the sympathy. And while you're trying to rescue them, you slowly start drowning too. Because not every cry for help wants to be saved. Some people just want company in their misery. There's a woman who keeps taking back the same partner who hurts her. Every time she tells herself, he'll change this time. He just needs love, and she gives it all of it. Forgives the lies, ignores the warnings, silences her pain. But nothing changes. Because you can't love someone into healing when they're comfortable with being broken. He doesn't see her love as a gift. He sees it as a guarantee. The more she forgives, the less he values her forgiveness. And she doesn't realize that her compassion has turned into his excuse. You can't heal someone who benefits from staying wounded. Sometimes, it's a family member. The one who refuses to grow, refuses to take responsibility, yet always expects you to fix everything. They blame the world for their failures. They drain you with guilt trips, with stories of how life was unfair. You feel obligated because they're family. You tell yourself, if I don't help them, who will? But what you don't see is that your help has turned into their habit. They don't want accountability, they want rescue. And every time you step in, you're teaching them they never have to step up. Love doesn't mean saving someone from the consequences of their own choices. Sometimes love means letting them fall, letting them learn, letting them face their reflection without your hands holding them steady. And then there's that friend who lives off drama. Every day is a new crisis, a new enemy, a new heartbreak. They love chaos because it makes them feel alive. You keep trying to calm them, give them advice, bring logic to their storms. But they don't want peace. Peace feels boring to them. They thrive on the attention that comes with struggle. And when you stop reacting, when you stop fixing, they'll call you cold, heartless, detached. But you're not. You're just done confusing chaos for connection. Because some people don't want healing. They just want an audience for their pain. Think about this. If you keep bandaging someone's wounds, but they keep tearing them open, is that healing or enabling? You're not helping them recover, you're helping them stay broken. And the saddest part, you start believing that their happiness is your responsibility. You start carrying guilt every time they're sad, every time they fail, every time they cry. But their pain is not your punishment. You are not their cure. You are a person, not a prescription. Healing is a choice, one only they can make. There's a man who spent years trying to help his best friend quit his addictions. He paid for rehab, stayed up during withdrawals, lied to protect him, even lost relationships because of it. But his friend didn't want recovery. He wanted relief. He wanted someone to clean his mess so he could make it again. And when he finally got tired and walked away, his friend called him selfish. But sometimes walking away is the only honest act of love left. Because if someone refuses to heal, your presence becomes their permission to stay the same. In life, you'll meet people who crave your light because it makes their darkness feel less lonely. But the more light you give, the dimmer you become. You'll start feeling heavy, anxious, confused about why your goodness feels like a burden. It's because you're giving it to someone who doesn't want to rise. They just want you to kneel with them. You're not cold for stepping away. You're not cruel for protecting your peace. You're just finally learning that not everyone deserves the version of you that shows up to fix everything. It's okay to care. It's beautiful to love deeply. But it's dangerous to love someone so much that you forget what peace feels like. You can't be the medicine and the bandage and the doctor all at once for someone who keeps reopening their wounds. The most painful truth to accept is that you can't save everyone. You can guide, you can support, you can inspire. But healing is an inside job. If they don't want to change, no amount of your love will make them. And so, the next time you find yourself trying to heal someone who's not even trying to help themselves, remember this: your light was meant to guide others, not to burn out, saving those who choose the dark. Some people love their pain because it gets them attention, excuses. But you deserve peace. You deserve to be surrounded by people who choose healing, not by those who worship their wounds. Because when you finally stop trying to heal people who enjoy being broken, that's when you realize the only soul you were ever truly meant to save was your own. Real kindness comes with strength, not sacrifice. The world has twisted kindness into something it was never meant to be. They tell you that being kind means always saying yes, always forgiving, always giving second chances. But that's not kindness. That's compliance. Real kindness doesn't come from weakness. It comes from power. It's not about letting people walk over you. It's about choosing to rise above them without losing your integrity. It's not about lowering your voice to keep the peace. It's about speaking truth without hate. Kindness is not about shrinking yourself so others can feel tall. It's about standing firm in who you are while still having the grace to be gentle. There's a difference between being kind and being used. You can smile, be polite, help others, but you must never hand over your dignity in the process. Think of that employee who always covers extra shifts, who never complains, who does everyone else's work because they don't want conflict. People call them so kind or so reliable, so good-hearted. But behind that praise, they're exhausted, they go home drained, questioning their worth because their kindness turned into expectation. That's not strength. That's surrender dressed as goodness. Real kindness would have said, I'd love to help, but I need rest too. Because kindness without boundaries is not noble. It's self-betrayal. Imagine a friend who always listens, always gives advice, always stays up comforting everyone. But when they're the ones breaking down, no one shows up. They tell themselves, it's okay, I'm strong, I don't need help. But that's not strength. That's silence. True strength isn't pretending you're fine, it's having the courage to admit you're not. Real kindness to others begins when you start showing kindness to yourself. You can't pour compassion into others when you're running on empty. It takes courage to say, I need space. It takes power to say, I can't fix this for you. The world may misunderstand that as coldness, but it's actually balance. The purest form of kindness there is. There's this mother who gives everything to her children, her time, her sleep, her dreams. She sacrifices everything thinking that's what love demands. But years later, she feels lost. She's forgotten what makes her smile, what makes her feel alive. Her heart is full of love, but empty of herself. She doesn't realize that love without balance destroys the giver. Real kindness is teaching her children through example. Showing them that self-care isn't selfish. That strength lies in knowing when to pause. Because one day they'll learn to love themselves the way she loves herself. That's the legacy of strength through kindness. In relationships, people confuse patience with tolerance. They think enduring disrespect or indifference is an act of love. But kindness isn't staying silent when you're being hurt. It's having the strength to say, this isn't love, this is pain. It's saying, I can care for you and still choose myself. Real kindness doesn't beg someone to change. It sets the standard and steps away when it's not met. The bravest thing you can do is walk away with compassion still in your heart. That's strength. The kind that doesn't harden you, but protects you. Even in the smallest acts, strength and kindness work together. Think of someone driving on a busy road. Another driver cuts them off. And instead of reacting with anger, they take a deep breath and let it go. That's not weakness. That's emotional discipline. It takes strength to stay kind when the world tests your patience. Anyone can react. It takes real power to respond with grace. Because kindness is not about being a saint. It's about being conscious. It's about knowing you can fight, but choosing peace instead. You'll see this strength in leaders too. The ones who don't need to humiliate others to feel in control. They guide with empathy, not ego. They correct with respect, not rage. People follow them not because they fear them, but because they trust them. That's the power of kindness anchored in strength. It creates loyalty, not obedience. It inspires, not intimidates. There's a young man who always lets people borrow money, time and energy. And each time he gets disappointed. He tells himself, if I stop helping, I'll be a bad person. But real kindness means knowing when to help and when to say no. Because sometimes saying no is the kindest thing you can do. It teaches responsibility, it protects your energy, and it keeps love from turning into resentment. You can't keep filling buckets with holes and expect your well to last. Strength is not about giving endlessly. It's about giving wisely. Real kindness isn't loud. It doesn't beg for recognition. It shows up in small choices. The courage to forgive without reopening the door. The maturity to let go without bitterness. The strength to care without losing yourself. People think kindness is soft, but the truth is, it's the hardest thing to practice in a world that rewards cruelty. It's easy to be kind when everyone's kind to you. It's easy to smile when life's perfect. But real kindness, the kind that's powerful, comes when you stay gentle even when life isn't fair. When you keep your integrity when others lose theirs. When you choose grace over revenge and peace over proving a point. Strength is the foundation that allows kindness to stand tall. Without strength, kindness collapses under pressure. Without boundaries, kindness becomes manipulation. But when you combine them, you become unstoppable. Calm but commanding, kind but firm, loving but wise. Real kindness doesn't mean you let everyone in. It means you decide who deserves to stay. It doesn't mean you let people cross your limits. It means you show them where they are. It's not about sacrificing your happiness to keep others comfortable. It's about spreading goodness without losing yourself in the process. Because kindness that comes from strength uplifts both the giver and the receiver. It heals without hurting. It helps without hollowing. It shines without burning out. Protect your peace like it's sacred, because it is. You don't realize how precious peace is until you lose it. You don't understand its value until it's gone. Peace isn't silence. It's not isolation. It's not pretending everything's fine. Peace is that rare moment when your mind and heart finally agree, when your soul isn't at war with your thoughts. And yet, we give it away so easily. We hand it over to people who don't deserve access to it. We trade it for validation, for approval, for temporary connections. But peace is not a bargain. It's a boundary. It's the line that protects your sanity from the chaos of the world. You have to protect your peace the same way you'd protect your home. You wouldn't leave your front door wide open for anyone to walk in. So why do you leave your emotional door unguarded? Every time you allow someone's negativity to live rent free in your mind, you're giving away your calm. Every time you engage in unnecessary arguments, you're paying with your peace. You don't need to prove your point to everyone. Some people aren't looking for understanding. They're looking for control. You protect your peace by refusing to dance in every drama someone invites you to. Think about that person who's always surrounded by chaos. They wake up to noise, scroll through arguments online, feed on gossip, and end their day wondering why they feel anxious. Peace doesn't survive where drama is entertained. Protecting your peace might mean unfollowing people who trigger your insecurities, saying no to conversations that drain you, or stepping back from people who constantly complain. That doesn't make you cold, it makes you conscious. The loudest rooms rarely hold the deepest truths. Real peace lives in stillness, not in noise. There's a man who used to argue about everything. Politics, religion, opinions. He couldn't let anything go. He thought every disagreement needed resolution. He thought peace meant everyone agreeing with him. But one day he realized peace isn't about winning arguments. It's about losing interest in them. You protect your peace by realizing that not every battle deserves your energy. Some things don't need closure. They just need distance. The moment you stop trying to explain yourself to people committed to misunderstanding you, you'll feel the weight lift off your chest. That's not defeat, that's freedom. Protecting your peace also means being selective with your time. You can't keep pouring hours into people or situations that bring you pain. Time is a currency, and peace is the profit. Think of that friend who always calls to complain but never listens. You hang up feeling emotionally heavy, yet you keep answering their calls out of guilt. That's how peace gets stolen. Not in one big moment, but little by little through small emotional leaks. Protecting your peace means saying, I love you, but I can't keep doing this. It means choosing silence over chaos, calm over guilt, stillness over drama. There's a young woman who realized that her biggest enemy wasn't other people. It was her own mind. Overthinking every word, replaying every mistake, worrying about what others thought of her. Her peace was being held hostage by her thoughts. Protecting your peace also means protecting it from yourself. It means reminding yourself that not every thought deserves attention, not every emotion deserves action. It means forgiving yourself faster. It means letting go of the things you can't change. Peace starts inside, and if you don't guard it, no one else will. Sometimes, protecting your peace means disappointing others. It means saying no when they expect a yes. It means walking away when they expect you to stay. And it hurts because you care. But you can't be everyone's hero and your own prisoner at the same time. You can't keep rescuing people who are comfortable in their chaos. You can love them, pray for them, wish them well. But you can't lose your peace trying to fix what they refuse to change. Protecting your peace means understanding that not everyone deserves a front row seat to your life. Some people belong in the audience, not on your stage. Have you noticed how children protect their joy naturally? They laugh easily, they cry freely, they move on quickly. That's peace, unfiltered, unguarded, pure. But as we grow, we start collecting things that disturb it: comparison, guilt, fear, resentment. Protecting your peace means returning to that childlike state. Not naive, but free. It means learning how to release rather than retain. When something disturbs your peace, you don't need to react. You just need to remove. Protect your peace the way fire protects its flame. with oxygen, but with distance from the wind. At work, protecting your peace might look like not getting involved in office politics. It might mean doing your best and letting go of what you can't control. Some people thrive on competition, gossip, and pressure. Don't let that energy enter your space. Stay focused, stay grounded. Your peace is your productivity. The calmer your mind, the clearer your decisions. The clearer your decisions, the stronger your direction. Peace doesn't mean everything's perfect. It means you've learned to stay steady even when everything's shaking. And when it comes to love, real love respects peace. If someone constantly makes you feel anxious, uncertain, or small, that's not love, that's disturbance disguised as passion. Protect your peace by choosing people who bring you calm, not chaos. The right person will never make you question your worth or your sanity. They'll guard your peace with you, not against you. You don't have to fight for love that's aligned with your peace. It will flow, not force. Protecting your peace isn't selfish. It's sacred. It's not about building walls. It's about creating gates. It's about deciding who and what enters your emotional space. Because once peace is disturbed, everything else loses balance. Your focus fades, your confidence weakens, your spirit tires. Protect your peace like your life depends on it. Because it does. Every time you choose calm over chaos, reflection over reaction, understanding over anger, you strengthen your peace. And when you learn to live from that space, life stops feeling like a battle and starts feeling like belonging. You see, peace is not something you find. It's something you build, brick by brick, choice by choice, silence by silence. You build it when you stop explaining yourself to people who already made up their minds. You build it when you stop letting the world rush you into chaos. You build it when you choose calm in the face of noise. And that, my friend, is strength disguised as serenity. The world might call it selfish, but I call it self-respect. Because when you protect your peace, you're not just saving your sanity, you're saving your soul. Listen closely. There will always be noise. There will always be people who misunderstand your stillness as weakness, your boundaries as attitude, your silence as surrender. But remember this, lions don't roar to prove they're lions. The forest already knows who they are. Your peace doesn't need to be loud to be powerful. It just needs to be yours. The strongest storms make the calmest sailors. And the ones who master their peace, they master life. Think about it. Every great person you've ever admired carried an aura of calm around them. Nelson Mandela walked out of prison not with revenge, but with peace. Mahatma Gandhi didn't raise a sword, he raised his stillness. Martin Luther King Jr. didn't shout his anger. He spoke his truth with grace. That's what real power looks like. Not the kind that controls others, but the kind that controls itself. Because peace is not passive. It's the loudest roar in a world that thrives on chaos. And when you start protecting your